The rhythmic click-clack, tap-tap of keyboard and mouse filled the room. His nimble fingers danced across the controls, the sound forming a steady, almost musical cadence. On the brightly lit screen, his opponent was sent flying, blood splattering as the character collapsed. Yeq chuckled, pulling the cigarette from the corner of his mouth. The ash had already formed a long, fragile line, yet despite his intense mouse and keyboard movements, not a speck had fallen. He quickly stubbed it out in a strangely shaped ashtray, his hand returning swiftly to the keyboard as he prepared to say something to his opponent. Just then, the door clicked open. Without turning his head, as if he had been expecting this moment, he simply asked, "You're here?" "I'm here," Sumu Ching replied just as briefly. "Then let's go." Yeq declined the opponent's rematch request, casually pulling a card from the Glory gaming device. As he stood and walked toward the door, he grabbed his jacket from the rack. It was late at night, yet the Excellent Era Club was still brightly lit. Yeq and Sumu Chang left the room and walked straight to the end of the corridor. There stood a spacious meeting room. Upon entering, one could immediately see a massive electronic display covering the entire wall, showing the rankings and statistics of the Glory Professional League. Ranking? Team Excellent Era was placed 19th, second from the bottom. For a powerhouse team that once dominated 3 consecutive seasons, such a result was painfully glaring, now hanging brightly on the wall, as if mocking everyone. Yet the atmosphere in the room wasn't heavy, rather it was lively. The team members of Excellent Era were gathered around someone, fawning over him. When Yeq answered, they acted as if they didn't see him. Those who did glance his way had eyes filled with coldness and ridicule. "Yeq, the club has decided your position as captain will be taken over by the newly transferred player, Sun Xiang. From now on, One Autumn Leaf will also be controlled by him." The club manager turned and spoke immediately upon seeing Yeq, delivering the news coldly. No introduction, no tact, just like discarding a used tissue. Sumu Ching opened her mouth to speak, but was gently pulled back by Yeq. He smiled faintly and shook his head, signaling that he didn't mind. "Brother Ye, sorry about this. Just got here and already taking your spot." Sitting confidently in the captain's seat at the head of the table, once Yeq's, Sun Xiang spoke, not even sparing Yeq a glance. It wasn't just ignoring him, it was outright disdain. Instead, his gaze lingered mostly on Sumu Chang. To be fair, Sumu Chang was far more eye-catching than Yeq. She was known as one of the top beauties in the Glory professional scene. Even outside this small circle, among countless beauties in the entertainment world, she would still stand out. Even the teammates who saw her every day couldn't help but be momentarily stunned when she walked in. But they quickly regained composure. There was someone more important to pay attention to. Ha! Brother Xiang really deserves that seat. Exactly, someone's already past his prime. One Autumn Leaf can only truly unleash the battle god's power under Brother Xiang. Sun Xiang was the center of attention, a rising genius in the professional scene, who won Rookie of the Year in his debut season with stats rivaling that year's MVP. Leading the mediocre Everlasting team to 8th place, he showed strong potential, before transferring mid-season to the struggling Excellence Era, all for one reason: the legendary Battle Mage account of One Autumn Leaf. Having been in the league for less than 2 years, Sun Xiang was already being called Brother Xiang by Excellent Era's players, clearly seen as the future leader. He accepted their flattery with ease and finally glanced at Yeq, his eyes full of disdain. "Yeq, the club has decided. Hand over the One Autumn Leaf account card to Sun Xiang." No matter how composed Yeq was, his heart couldn't help but ache. One Autumn Leaf, just from the name, it was tied to him. It had been his account since he first entered Glory, accompanying him for 10 years. From a rookie to a legendary master, from an humble battle mage to the renowned battle god. But 7 years ago, when he signed with the club, ownership of the account transferred to them. He'd had long known this day would come, and now it finally had. His fingers trembled slightly. For a professional player, steady hands are essential, but now Yeq, known as the Unshakable One, was trembling. Under the gazes of others enjoying his downfall, the silver-gray One Autumn Leaf account card was handed over to Sun Xiang. Excitement and greed flashed in Sun Xiang's eyes. This is what he came for. But just as he grasped the card, he felt resistance. Sensing Yeq's reluctance, Sun Xiang sneered. "Let go, Brother Ye. Look at your hands, trembling like that. How can hands like those bring out the true power of the battle god? Leave it to me. I'll make the title shine again across Glory. And you? Retire." At that moment, Yeq's previously calm gaze suddenly sharpened. His trembling hands steadied. "Do you like this game?" he suddenly asked. "What?" Sun Xiang was caught off guard. If you like it, then everything here is glory, not to show off. What are you talking about? Sun Xiang snapped, suddenly losing composure. Take good care of it. Ye Qiu released the card and turned to leave. Ye Qiu? The manager called after him. Ye Qiu paused. We don't have a suitable account for you right now. You can stay as a sparring partner. A sparring partner? A legend reduced to that? No need, Ye Qiu said calmly. Terminate it. Terminate? The manager raised his eyebrow. I request termination. Don't act impulsively. Sumu Ching rushed forward. Ye Qiu smiled bitterly. Don't you understand? They want me gone. Tears welled in her eyes. Then if that's the case, then No need, Ye Qiu interrupted gently. Don't worry, I'll be back. Then let's talk about the compensation. Simple condition, you announce retirement. Retirement? Sumu Ching was furious. I agree, Ye Qiu said immediately. You're crazy. After all these years, a year off isn't bad, he smiled. Without hesitation, he signed the prepared document. It was time to leave. Without farewell, Ye Qiu turned and walked away. I'll see you off, Sumu Chang said, the only one who followed him. What's with the attitude? Letting him retire is for his own good anyway. What else can he even do? Exactly. At least he knows his place, not sticking around the club just to coast. As soon as Ye Qiu and Suma Chang left, the people remaining in the meeting room seemed to snap back to their senses and began chatting again. Sun Shang still looked uneasy. He didn't join in. Instead, he walked over to the manager. I don't understand. Why would he agree to such conditions? He had no choice, the manager replied. Why? Because he can't afford the contract termination fee. No, that's impossible. Sun Shang was shocked. Ye Qiu had been a top-tier professional player for 7 years. Even if he rejected all commercial deals, just his salary alone shouldn't leave him unable to pay compensation. You didn't play in the early days, so you wouldn't understand, the manager said. Back then, the league wasn't as glamorous as it is now. Players barely made a living. Most had to take side jobs. Those who were eliminated had it especially hard. They spent their youth on the game, but had no real skills for the outside world, so their lives afterwards were often difficult. Ye Qiu was a genius of that era. He made it this far on skill alone, but he had many friends like that. You mean he used his money to help them? Exactly. If he needs money so much, why refuse commercial work? That guy has reasons he doesn't tell others, the manager replied. Have you ever guessed? Sun Shang pressed. It might have something to do with his family. Huh? No one has ever known anything about his family, and he never talks about them. It's strange, so I suspect that's the reason. This guy really is full of mysteries. Sun Shang looked down at the One Autumn Leaf account card in his hand. He knew this account had been created even before the professional league existed, one of the oldest accounts in Glory. All right, enough about him. The boss couldn't make it today, but he specially sent a bottle of wine he's been saving for years to welcome you. Haha, then thank you. With me here, excellent era will rise again. Ye Qiu left. Suma Chang stood at the club's entrance, watching him the entire way until his figure disappeared. He kept turning back to wave at her, while her tears had long streamed down her face. There were no lengthy goodbyes. Ye Qiu only said 8 words. Rest for a year, then come back. Suma Chang said nothing, only nodded heavily. She was no longer the naive girl she once was. She had the strength to face many things on her own. Snow began to fall. This winter was bitterly cold. Snow? When Ye Qiu left the club, he hadn't yet thought about what to do next. After living a stable life for so many years, this sudden change left him unprepared. He just walked aimlessly, thinking he would keep going until he figured things out. But the weather gave him no such chance. Snow began to fall and soon grew heavier. It quickly soaked his shoulders, frost forming in his hair. There was no avoiding it. Looking around, Ye Qiu spotted an internet cafe by the roadside, its lights bright in the night. He hurried over. Inside, it was warm. Ye Qiu brushed the snow off himself and rented a computer at the front desk. Computer 47, Area C, the girl at the counter said, handing back her ID. But when she looked up, he was already gone. She wasn't surprised. This happened often. She calmly put the ID away. The owner would come back for it eventually. Computer 47, Area C. Ye Qiu followed the signs. The cafe was quite large, with many computers across 2 floors. Area C. He spotted the sign overhead. No need to go upstairs. When he reached number 47, he paused. Someone was already sitting there, a girl, and she was playing Glory, locked in an intense arena duel. Her ponytail swayed slightly with her rapid movements. Looking at her profile and the launcher character on her screen, Ye Qiu was momentarily stunned. For a second, he almost thought it was Suma Chang, But he quickly realized it wasn't. Suma Chang was always calm and gentle. Even in fierce battles, she could maintain a smile. Sometimes, watching her calmly blast opponents to pieces and then politely apologize afterwards even gave Ye Q chills. The girl in front of him, though, pretty and seemingly gentle, was grinding her teeth and violently smashing the keyboard and mouse, giving off a completely different vibe. Such killing intel, but unfortunately, Ye Q glanced at the screen. He could already tell she was about to lose. As expected, the moment she exposed a flaw, her opponent seized it. A combo followed, her already low HP instantly dropped to 0. Damn it, she cursed, slamming the keyboard and forcefully exiting the game. Ye Q hesitated about whether to take the seat when the girl suddenly turned around, noticed him lingering, and snapped, "Are you using the computer?" Ye Q nodded. "Sit here then," she said before walking off. Chen Guo was annoyed, extremely annoyed. She had just dueled someone in Glory's arena, 52 matches, and she hadn't won one of them. She couldn't believe it. Her account wasn't weak either. She touched the Hazy Mist account card in her pocket. Among regular players, it was considered quite strong, and her own skill wasn't bad. She had been playing Glory for 5 years. Yet her opponent with an inferior account had beaten her 52 matches straight. A true expert, Chen Guo concluded, nodding. "Boss, you didn't log out, did you? Why is that guy still playing?" Someone beside her suddenly said. Chen Guo turned to look. It was a regular customer peeking towards the computer she had just left. Oh no! Startled, Chen Guo rushed back over. Since Glory had become so popular, account login devices were standard equipment, even more so in internet cafes. Players inserted their account cards to log in, so after playing, most would carefully store them often. Losing the card could be reported, so account theft had become rare. But in places like internet cafes, it was common for people to forget to log out completely. The next user could then take advantage and steal in-game currency or equipment. Chen Guo had been so frustrated after losing 52 matches that she forgot to log out. She had only returned to the desktop. She hurried back over and saw the guy indeed using her account, but instead of stealing anything, he was fiercely battling someone in the arena. Before Chen Guo could shout, 2 large words suddenly flashed across the screen. Victory!
1. Chen Guo froze for a moment. The 2 large words, victory, on the screen were the sign of a win in the arena, the equivalent of a KO. But how long had she been gone? 40 seconds? 50 seconds? Chen Guo checked the time. Definitely less than a minute. And yet, the opponent who had beaten her 52 times in a row had been taken down by this guy in under a minute? She even forgot to rush over to reclaim her account. Instead, she hopes he would play another match so she could observe more carefully. But all she saw was him skillfully logging out of the game. He stretched lazily, looking around as if he had lost interest in the computer. The moment he turned his head, he saw Chen Guo staring at him and quickly exclaimed, "You didn't log out earlier. When I sat down, the match had already started. I just helped you win. Don't worry." "How long did it take?" Chen Guo asked. "A little over 40 seconds, yes," she replied. Chen Guo's mouth fell open. The other party even sighed regretfully. "My hands were a bit stiff. Otherwise, 30 seconds would have been enough." 30 seconds? Defeating someone who had beaten her 52 times straight in just 30 seconds? Who was this guy? Could he be a professional player from Excellent Era? Chen Guo suddenly thought of that. She knew the club wasn't far from her internet cafe, but thinking it through, she could recognize all of Excellent Era's players, unless this was the one who had never shown his face, the legendary Ye Chu. Ye Chu. At the thought, Chen Guo became excited, but then she reconsidered. Someone so low profile would definitely deny it if she asked directly. After hesitating, she suddenly remembered something and rushed back to the counter. "What's the name registered for the user at computer 47 in Area C?" she asked the receptionist. "Ye Chu," the girl replied. Ye Chu? Ye Chu? Chen Guo lit up with excitement. In her mind, this was obviously a disguise. If he'd really written Ye Chu, she wouldn't have believed it. Hehe, Chen Guo let out a rather scheming laugh. She was already thinking about grabbing something random to get an autograph. Ye Chu's autograph. Who had that? No one. Just as she was thinking, the receptionist casually added, "He left his ID card here." ID card? Chen Guo froze. Only then did she realize how carried away she had been. Registering at an internet cafe required a real name and ID. There was no way to use a fake one. "Let me see it." She took the ID and looked. It clearly said Ye Chu. Her excitement instantly deflated. She even had the sudden urge to change the character Ye Chu into Ye Chi. Now that she knew he wasn't the mysterious expert she admired, her curiosity about his skills dropped by half. Feeling annoyed, Chen Guo returned to Area C, Computer 47, and handed over the ID. "You forgot this." "Oh, thanks." Ye Chu quickly took it. "Are you staff here?" "Yeah, I'm the owner." "Oh, boss, that's great. I saw on your website that you're hiring internet cafe attendants, right?" Yes." Chen Guo didn't expect this sudden turn. She had been thinking of an excuse to learn from him. This actually works perfectly. I think I fit the requirements well. I don't have any issues with the job or the pay. What do you think? Consider it, boss. Well, you'll have to beat me in glory first, Cheng-Guo replied. Huh? That's a requirement too? Yeshu turned around. No need to look, I just added it now. Yeshu paused, then understood. His earlier performance had been too impressive, and this beautiful boss was curious about his skill. Unfortunately, he gave a bitter smile. I can't beat you. Why? Cheng-Guo was confused. Because I don't have an account that can beat you. Your account? What level? What gear? Level 0, no gear, Yeshu replied. No way. Cheng-Guo found it hard to believe. Someone who could defeat that opponent in 40 seconds only had a brand new account? How was that even possible? I gave my original account to someone else, Yeshu simply said. Oh, I see. You're quite generous, Cheng-Guo sighed. Someone this strong must have had a powerful account. Giving it away so casually is incredibly generous. Yeah, very generous, Yeshu smiled wryly. The account he'd given away was Battle God One Autumn Leaf. Calling it merely generous was an understatement. Planning to start fresh in the new server? Cheng-Guo asked. New server? Yeshu paused, then glanced at the date and suddenly understood. Tomorrow was Glory's 10th anniversary. Since its 2nd anniversary, a new server had been opened every year at midnight. The 10th edition account cards had been sold 3 months ago. Both veteran players, dissatisfied with old servers, and newcomers were ready, eagerly awaiting this day. This would be the 10th server. Back then, One Autumn Leaf was a first server account. Later, when the game introduced the Heavenly Domain, many top players completed the skill challenges and became the first to enter that new world. Now, One Autumn Leaf had changed hands. His professional career had come to an end, and at this moment, a new server was about to open again. Memories of 10 years suddenly flew out of Yeshu's mind. A new server, Yeshu muttered. By the way, before a new server opens, you can transfer servers, right? Yeshu suddenly asked. If it's a level 1 empty account, yes, Cheng-Guo replied. Let me try. Yeshu took out a card from his pocket and quickly logged into the transfer page. Cheng-Guo stared at it in surprise. Isn't that a first-generation account card? It is, Yeshu smiled. Each year had its own version. This one was nearly 10 years old. Cheng-Guo stared at him in shock. How long have you been playing, Glory? Almost 10 years, Yeshu replied. Cheng-Guo had thought her 5 years already made her a veteran. This guy had double that. One of the earliest players, yet still enthusiastic about starting fresh in a new server. What kind of passion was that? While they were talking, the screen displayed, "Transfer successful." Done. Yeshu put away the card, briefly recalling all the memories it carried. So, you wanted to work here? Cheng-Guo brought the topic back. Yes. Yeshu snapped out of his thoughts. What shift? Night shift. Huh? Are you sure? Cheng-Guo was surprised. The night shift ran from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Paid a little more, but few people wanted it due to the reverse schedule. I'm fine with it. I like staying up at night, Yeshu said. Cheng-Guo examined him carefully. His hair and beard hadn't been trimmed for at least half a month. His face was pale, almost sickly, and his eyes looked tired. I've seen this type often. People who spend nights in internet cafes. But this guy was no longer young and still lived like this. Somewhat pitiable. Even so, having someone willing to take the night shift was great. Plus, she was curious about his 10 years of experience. All right, you're hired. Thank you, boss. You've seen the conditions, just follow them. No problem. Then come with me. Cheng-Guo moved quickly. Since he was hired, she immediately put him to work, asking him to move a pile of keyboards to the storage room upstairs. Her internet cafe, Happy Internet Cafe, was quite upscale. 2 floors, over 1,000 computers. The second floor was more luxurious, with a premium area and a separate space containing rooms and storage. While moving the keyboards, Yeshu inspected the place. The job listing included accommodation. Having just left the club with nowhere to go, this was exactly what he needed. The outer room looked clean and comfortable. He assumed that was the living space. But after he finished, Cheng-Guo pointed to a small bed in the storage room. This is where you'll stay. Huh? Yeshu was stunned. He had thought the bright room outside was for living. Even the sofa would have been fine. But this? He looked around. A small window faced the streetlight outside. With the room light on, the window looked dim and eerie, almost like a ghost story setting. It's not great, just make do. Honestly, I don't even urgently need staff right now. That job posting is quite old. She admitted. No problem, this is fine, Yeshu quickly reassured her. Whenever you're free, you can use the computers downstairs. No charge for staff. You're very generous, boss. Well, we have over 1,000 computers. One more or less doesn't matter. Yeshu asked. How's business usually? Pretty good. I'm satisfied. Night shift is quieter, mostly nearby college students pulling all-nighters. You won't have much to do. Just keep an eye on things. Got it. Since it's your first day, can you work tonight? I'll also test your ability to stay up. No problem. I'm excellent at that. Yeshu gave a thumbs up. All right, let's go. I'll treat you to a late-night meal. Oh, what are we eating? Not much left at this hour. The restaurant across the street might still be open. Go check and bring something back. I don't eat celery. She handed him $200. It's snowing, Yeshu said. It's just across the street. How much snow could there be? Go on. Yeshu reluctantly complied, heading out to buy food. Despite being ordered around right after starting work, he didn't feel annoyed. This girl treated him like an old acquaintance after just a few words. Her personality was easygoing and warm. Only then did Yeshu realize he hadn't even asked for his new boss's name.
Boss Chen, you guys are having a late-night meal again? As soon as the food was brought back, Chen Go called the cafe staff to eat together. The aroma quickly filled the entire place, immediately triggering loud protests from the customers gaming nearby. When your dinner has already been digested, smelling delicious food isn't enjoyment, it's torture. If you want instant noodles, line up, don't make a mess, Chen Go called out. Boss Chen eats gourmet food every day while we're stuck with instant noodles, the customers complained helplessly, grabbing cups of noodles while staring enviously at the table full of dishes. If you want proper food, go buy it across the street yourself. Don't try to order my staff around, Chen Go shot back. Next time you eat, give us a heads up so we can share a bite, someone suggested. With so many people in the cafe, should I feed all of you? Stop talking. If you want food but are too lazy to go, just call the restaurant. They'll deliver, Chen Go replied. Boss Chen, you have a phone? Let me borrow it, someone shouted. Why would I need a phone? I've got people to run errands for me, she said. At that, both the customers and the staff nearly burst into tears. Seizing the moment, Yeshu asked, Boss, your surname is Chen. Yeah, Chen Go. I've seen your ID. You're younger than me. Calling me sister wouldn't hurt you. Let's just keep it casual, Yeshu smiled awkwardly. This fish dish is really spicy today. Xiaochu, you eat it. Chen Go had barely eaten before she coughed from the spice, put down her chopsticks, and grabbed some water. When she came back, she kicked Yeshu's chair. Finished eating? Hurry. What's the hurry? Yeshu asked. Hurry! Chen Go raised her wrist to show him. Only 7 minutes left before server 10 opened. You're joining too? Yeshu was a bit surprised. He had seen Chen Go's account earlier. It belonged to server 5 and had been built over 5 years. For a normal player, it was quite strong. It wasn't something easily abandoned. I'm just watching the excitement, Chen Go said. A new server launch is always lively, but it would normally be a quiet day had turned the happy internet cafe into a bustling scene. Almost everyone was preparing to enter the new server, sitting at the login screen, their cursors hovering over the still darkened server 10. Entering a new server meant competing for level rankings, dungeon clears, records, so many opportunities. The thrill of pioneering a new world was irresistible. Chen Go felt herself getting swept up in the excitement, but when she turned to look at Yeshu, he was still calmly browsing food options, completely indifferent. This guy has zero enthusiasm, Chen Go muttered. Why rush? Yeshu's calmness was genuine. He couldn't deny that Glory's promotion was successful. Competition and rankings had become incredibly exciting for players, but for someone who had already experienced the highest honors, these things felt ordinary. Still, seeing Chen Go's impatient expression, Yeshu decided to give his boss some face. He finally put down his bowl and reluctantly found a computer to sit down. Damn, it's like I'm forcing you to play, Chen Go grumbled behind him. The other staff laughed quietly. They realized this new guy could actually get her boss flustered, which was no small feat. Chen Go sat down next to him and logged into her account, hazy mist. The other 9 servers hadn't lost many players despite the new one opening, especially the older servers. After all, building an account in Glory took serious effort. Her account had taken 5 years to reach its current level. No way she'd abandon it easily. Besides, eventually, everyone would gather in the Heavenly Domain anyway. The Heavenly Domain wasn't just a map. It was an entirely separate world, as large as 5 normal servers combined. It had tougher dungeons, better equipment, rarer materials, and a more intense competitive environment. It was where top players truly met. As midnight approached, the final 10 seconds began. Some players even started counting down loudly. Then, with a collective shout, 0! Server 10 lit up. Everyone in the cafe moved in unison, account cards inserted, cursors clicking into the new server. Chen Go turned to check on Yeshu and nearly spat blood. While everyone else was logging in, this guy was casually browsing a beginner's guide? What the hell? You don't even know this stuff? You need a guide? If not for that authentic old account card, she'd never believe he had 10 years of experience. It was been years since I did beginner tasks. How could I remember everything? Yeshu replied calmly. You've never guided a newbie before? Chen Go asked. Honestly, no, Yeshu said. So selfish, she scoffed. I just didn't have time. People who don't have time don't play games. If you're playing, it means you have too much time, Chen Go argued. I'm busy playing games, Yeshu said seriously. What do you even do? Play games. Oh, a gamer? She said. Yeshu smiled, a very high-level one. High level? A professional player? Chen Go was surprised. Yeshu nodded proudly.
Retired, Chengo said immediately. How did you know? Obviously, your age, she said. Yishu smiled bitterly. I knew it. No wonder you killed that guy in 40 seconds. Turns out you're a pro player, just not famous. Not famous, Yishu said. "Oh, I see," Yishu laughed. Stop pretending. You didn't retire, you got eliminated, right? Yishu fell silent. Sorry, Chengo realized she might have hit a sore spot. It's okay, Yishu sighed. Don't be discouraged. 25 isn't that old. Train hard and make a comeback, she encouraged. That's the plan, Yishu smiled. If that day comes, I have a favor to ask. What is it? Get me autographs. No need to wait. I can sign one for you right now. Don't flatter yourself. I mean get autographs from my idols, Chengo said. Oh, who? Sumu Ching and Yi Q, though Yi Q might be hard. He loves being mysterious. I see. Yishu nearly burst into tears. Yi Q is literally standing right in front of you. Yeah, he's almost never show himself. You've been in the pro scene and don't even know that? Yes, I know. Of course I know. Let me tell you a secret. I'm actually Yi Q. Oh, really? Then I'll tell you a secret too. I'm actually Sumu Ching. I really am Yi Q. I'm actually Sumu Ching. All right, stop choking. Go back to your guide. Chengo waved him off. But after returning her attention to the screen, she couldn't help but add, if you don't understand the beginner quests, just ask me. I want to explore a bit myself. I'll just do the quests that give skill points and attribute points. For ones that only give EXP or gear, dungeon farming is faster. Now that sounds like a veteran, but you don't need to figure it out yourself. Just scroll to the last page of the guide. Huh? Yishu flipped to the last page and immediately felt embarrassed. Of course, beginner quests hadn't changed in 10 years. Players had already optimized everything. A strategy like his, focusing only on high-value quests, was common knowledge among veterans, and right there was the exact guide he needed. Yishu prepared to follow it and nearly cried. He, the so-called Glory Encyclopedia, now had to rely on a beginner's guide? How embarrassing! Getting quests was already a struggle. A newly opened server means a huge influx of new players. Back in Glory's history, when Server 2 first launched, the newbie village had once been so overcrowded that players couldn't even move. Those who hadn't entered were just as tightly packed outside. Because of that, in later server launches, multiple newbie villages were added to distribute players. The disaster of Server 2 never happened again. Server 10 was well prepared too. Players were evenly spread across different villages. Up close, it looked crowded, but from a distance, it wasn't completely packed. However, the situation around quest NPCs was a different story. Everyone rushed toward the NPCs to accept quests, instantly piling into a chaotic mass. Glory didn't allow characters to overlap or pass through each other, so people just kept surrounding the NPC. Those inside couldn't get out, and those outside couldn't get in. Many players kept jumping, trying to leap over others' heads, but at level 0, their jump ability was terrible. The height wasn't nearly enough. The whole scene looked almost comical. Even the strongest experts couldn't do anything in this situation. Chen Guo, watching from the side, looked delighted. Her expression practically said, I knew this would happen. She then glanced at Yeshu's character and memorized his name, Lord Grimm. In amid endless shouting, the situation slowly improved. How was it resolved? A path was opened, so players who had already taken quests could leave, allowing others to move forward. Yeshu controlled Lord Grimm and finally managed to grab all the quests, then began completing them one by one. The newbie village mainly existed to help players get familiar with the game and controls, so the quests were mostly tutorial-based. Of course, Yeshu didn't need guidance. Still, due to the massive number of players, he had to fight over monsters, line up, and squeeze through crowds. After a long while, he finally completed the first batch of quests. Ten Guo occasionally watched and commented. In the end, it took about 2 hours to finish everything, from simple tasks to complex ones. Yeshu couldn't help but sigh. What's an expert worth? In a sea of people, an expert is nothing more than drifting clouds. Finally done, level 7. After turning in the last quest and leveling up, Yeshu turned to Chen Guo, only to find that Miss Chen had already fallen asleep in her chair, her head tilted toward his screen. Wasn't she supposed to observe his skills all night? Yeshu silently mocked her, took off his jacket and draped it over her before turning back to continue exploring the new server. Opening his status panel, after completing 3 quests, Lord Grimm had accumulated 340 skill points. In Glory, learning and upgrading skills required skill points. Each skill cost between 10 and 50 points. At the current level cap of 70, completing all quests would usually grant around 4,000 skill points. But that wasn't the limit. The maximum was 5,000, and the extra 1,000 required both luck and skill to obtain. In 10 years of glory, no accounts had ever reached 5,000. Even the top account, One Autumn's Leaf, only had 4840, still short by 160. 160 points might not seem like much, but it was significant. With 50 points per ultimate skill, that could mean 3 additional ultimates, or upgrading one ultimate by 3 levels. For top-tier players, that was a huge advantage. That's why in the early game, EXP and gear rewards could be ignored, but skill points could not. There were also attribute points. Characters in Glory have 4 main attributes: strength, intelligence, vitality, and spirit. Strength affected physical attack, defense, and carry weight. Intelligence affected magic attack, defense, and mana. Vitality affected HP and endurance. Spirits enhanced skill effects and resistance to debuffs. These attributes naturally increased with level. After class advancement at level 20, different classes would have different growth rates. But quest rewards for attributes were universal. Strength gave strength, intelligence gave intelligence, no matter your class. In other words, if all quests were completed, a max level account would have perfectly balanced base attributes. Customization would then depend on equipment. For now, attribute points weren't a concern. Yeshu glanced over his stats and immediately began spending skill points. In Glory, players chose a class at level 20. Before that, characters were classless, or rather all class. Any skill could be learned as long as there were enough points. This allowed players to experiment before choosing a class. After advancing, all skill points would be refunded for redistribution, but only within the class. As for which skills to learn, Yeshu didn't need to think. Though he couldn't recall all newbie quests, he would never forget the skills. Glory's skill balance was excellent. Even low-level skills had their uses. Since skill points were limited, players had to choose carefully. Even at max level, 4,000 or even 5,000 weren't enough to max everything. Yeshu, known as the Glory Encyclopedia, naturally had his own optimal combinations. Though One Autumn's Leaf had been a battle mage, his mastery extended to all classes. Without hesitation, he went to the general skill trainer and learned 2 essential movement skills available at level 5, Quick Run and Roll. These universal skills were cheap, only 10 points each, but extremely useful. Quick Run increased movement speed, consuming stamina with no cooldown. Roll allowed directional dodging, forward, backward, sideways, diagonal, also consuming stamina. Next came class skills. First, Heavenly Strike, Battle Mage, a basic launch skill that knocked enemies into the air. Then Dragon Tooth, a piercing attack that could briefly freeze the target. After that, he added a variety of skills from different classes: Floating Bullets, Gunner; Tracking Missile, Mechanic; Ground Slash, Magic Swordsman; Throw, Grappler; Shadow Cut, Ninja; Parry, Blade Master; Electric Ring, Elementalist; Heal, Cleric. These skills were all low cost, around 20 points each. At level 7, there was also a cap on skill levels, so even after spending, he still had plenty of points left. Yeshu stopped there. In his eyes, this set of skills was more than enough for the stage. However, if ordinary players saw this skill combination from a top-tier expert, they would probably laugh at it. Why were Lord Grimm's skill choices considered ridiculous? First, the low-level stage passes very quickly. Carefully coordinating skills at this stage is unnecessary, so many players simply ignore it and wait until level 20 to choose properly after their class advancement. Second, although the game allows players to experience various classes before level 20, most players already have a preferred class in mind when they start, like Mage, Swordsman, or Gunner. That's the general direction, but Yeshu's skill combination, it covered all classes. That's right. While there are no restrictions on learning skills before level 20, using them is restricted by weapons. For example, Floating Bullet, a gunner skill. If you're holding a sword from the swordsman class, there's no way you can use it. So with a setup like Lord Grimm's, he would need to carry weapons from multiple classes and constantly switch between them. Extremely troublesome. At just level 20, going through all of that hassle is basically asking for trouble, unless it's the old unspecialized playstyle. What is an unspecialized? It's a character without a class, but that belonged to the era when the level cap was 50. After the cap increased and class awakening quests appeared, the unspecialized playstyle disappeared. Players today, seeing Lord Grimm's full set of skills, wouldn't think of that. They just find it ridiculous. Yet Yeshu didn't seem to care at all. Lord Grimm only had a basic bronze sword, and after learning his skills, when passing by a shop, Yeshu simply sold his only weapon. Then he went straight to the storage chest and opened it. Inside was a piece of equipment. Normally, accounts transferred between servers must be completely empty. No experience, no money, no inventory, no storage, not even mail. But this account, Lord Grimm, after transferring to server 10, had an item in storage. No one knew why, but everything seemed to be within Yeshu's expectations. He knew this item would be here. However, when he saw it, he didn't feel joy. Only sorrow filled his heart. His hand holding the mouse trembled again, just like before when he lost one autumn leaf, and now when he retrieved this item. The cursor hovered over it. Umbrella, level 5. Weight 2.3 kilograms, attack speed 5, physical attack 180, magic attack 180. So simple that it didn't even have additional attributes, just like a white weapon. But Umbrella's name wasn't white, it was silver. In Glory, equipment rarity is indicated by color. Orange, purple, blue, green, white. White gear has no extra attributes. Green usually comes from quests. Blue drops from dungeon bosses and is the most common. Purple and orange are high-end gear. But Umbrella didn't belong to any of those. It was silver. If Chen Guo were awake to see this, she'd be shocked. Silver meant self-made equipment, a special system in Glory beyond normal gear. There's a famous saying in Glory, self-made equipment isn't necessarily the strongest, but the strongest equipment is always self-made. Even in the professional league, clubs invest heavily in researching such gear. One Autumn Leaf's weapon, Evil Annihilation, is one such legendary silver weapon, one of a kind. Self-made equipment is extremely hard to replicate. Each piece is unique, but it can be either a masterpiece or unique trash. So, what about Umbrella? If Chen Guo saw the stats, she'd immediately know. It was top tier. 180 physical and magic attack, comparable to a level 10 orange weapon with the highest attack stats. And unlike heavy weapons, Umbrella wasn't slow. Its weight was low and attack speed was already 5, enough to outperform most level 10 orange weapons. But its flaws were obvious. No additional attributes and only level 5, something that would quickly become obsolete. Yeshu didn't care, because he knew Umbrella was a masterpiece. After countless trials and failures, reaching a level 5 version was already a huge success, and self-made weapons could be upgraded continuously through the equipment editing system. Gently, Yeshu equipped Umbrella onto Lord Grimm. "Let's begin," he muttered softly, and then headed towards the Green Forest dungeon in the beginner village, as if Lord Grimm had heard him. Green Forest was a 5-player dungeon. Players could enter at level 5, but above level 10, records wouldn't count. Since players were randomly distributed at start, even friends couldn't easily gather together. Most dungeon runs were done with random teams. As Yeshu arrived, he received many party invites. Without much thought, he joined a team as in one member. Full, the team leader Moon in the Night shouted as Yeshu entered. "How are we distributing hidden boss drops?" "Whoa, aiming high, aren't you?" Moon in the Night replied casually, clearly not a complete newbie, since he didn't ask what a hidden boss was. Hidden bosses only appear in party dungeons and are announced by the system. They're slightly stronger than the final boss and drop better items. With Yeshu's skill, he could solo this dungeon, but hidden bosses only appear in parties. That's why he joined. He needed the materials they dropped to upgrade Umbrella. Compared to leveling Lord Grimm, upgrading Umbrella was far more difficult, so he started preparing early. Low-level dungeon gear becomes obsolete quickly, so it's not valuable. The real appeal lies in hidden boss materials, which are always useful. Even high-level players return to farm them. Moon in the Night clearly knew this, so he quickly set the rules. These are basically money. Roll dice for them. Agreed. There was no reason to argue. This was just a random team. "All right, get ready and enter," Moon in the Night said. Once everyone confirmed, he entered the dungeon. Earlier, Yeshu hadn't worn headphones while chatting with Chen Guo. He put them on now, and as soon as he entered, he heard a loud shout. "Damn, who's so lucky? Called for a hidden boss and it actually showed up right away." Glory directly supports voice chat, and it's extremely realistic. There's only one channel, in front of you. The volume changes based on the distance between characters, calculated automatically by the system. There's no background music in the game, only realistic environmental sounds like wind blowing and grass rustling. Once you put on headphones, it feels like you've entered another world. The immersion is incredibly strong. Yeshu guessed that the one making all the noise was Moon in the Night. He had already seen the system notification that the hidden boss, Dark Knight Cat Demon, had appeared. After typing "haha," he suddenly heard Moon in the Night's voice. "Say it out loud. Why are you typing?" "There's someone sleeping. Not convenient," Yeshu replied by typing. At the same time, he pulled out a cigarette pack, skillfully took one out, lit it, and held it in his mouth. "Oh," Moon in the Night understood, then asked, "Anyone else?" After the other 3 players spoke one by one, Moon in the Night was the first to sound disappointed. "No girls?" Laughter broke out, and the team set off. Green Forest was a beginner dungeon meant to familiarize players with instance gameplay. Its difficulty wasn't high. Moon in the Night was clearly not a newbie. He led the team smoothly, killing monsters efficiently along the way. At first, Yeshu used Lord Grimm to heal from the cleric class, which immediately made Moon in the Night treat him as a pure support player. In fact, at such a low-level dungeon, there was no need for a triangle formation strategy, but Moon in the Night seemed used to it and kept directing the team that way.
He acted as the main tank holding aggro, while the other three dealt damage, and Lord Grimm was assigned to the team's logistics manager. Amid shouts and battle cries, the five-man team quickly advanced. Yeshu's veteran skills stood out clearly and earned constant praise from the leader. At that moment, Yeshu felt a sudden wave of nostalgia. When was the last time he had run a dungeon with companions like this? How long had it been since he experienced such a feeling? Watching monsters fall one after another, memories surged in his heart. Even this simple run through Green Forest made him reminisce about 10 years ago. The close friend he met when Glory first launched, the one who stayed up all night discussing the game's future with him, the one who saw everything clearly, predicted everything correctly. Yet, because of an unexpected update, all dreams and hopes were shattered, leaving behind only an unfinished Umbra umbrella. You were the one with the greatest talent and potential in Glory. His fingers moved lightly across the keyboard. The mouse trembled slightly as Lord Grimm cast a heal on Moon in the Night. The latter praised the timing, but Yeshu's mind was far from the game. All right, next is the Dark Night Cat Demon, Moon in the Night said, after killing another mob. Hearing those 4 words, Yeshu snapped back to reality. Hidden bosses don't necessarily appear after clearing the dungeon. They can show up midway, depending on system prompts. And for Yeshu's team, the Dark Night Cat Demon had appeared now. The cat demon's attacks can inflict a curse status, but it's nothing serious. It's just fast, so it'll take me a bit to stabilize aggro. Wait before attacking, don't mess it up. Everyone nodded. Yeshu said nothing. There was nothing wrong with the plan. There's no world announcement, guys. We might be the first team in Server 10 to kill a hidden boss, Moon in the Night said excitedly. Move out, he ordered. The team advanced. The already dim forest grew darker under gathering clouds. Their footsteps echoed clearly. No one spoke. Everyone focused intently on their surroundings. Young Guan stopped staring at the sky. The cat demon isn't going to fall from above, Moon in the Night said. Since Glory uses a first-person perspective, looking up means your character visibly tilts their head. Seeing young Guan constantly looking up, he couldn't help but comment. Ha ha! Everyone laughed. Suddenly, Yeshu heard a sharp rustling sound from the bushes, different from footsteps. It was something brushing through branches. It's here! Typing would be too slow, so Yeshu quickly blurted out a muffled warning. He still had a cigarette in his mouth. At the same time, his fingers moved swiftly, turning Lord Grimm smoothly towards the direction of the incoming attack. Seeing his movement, the others immediately understood this usually quiet teammate was giving a warning. Fall back, Moon in the Night shouted. Instead of retreating, he stepped forward, making himself the target. The other 3 fell back and lined up with Lord Grimm, maintaining distance. Everyone held their breath. The rustling suddenly stopped. Yan Guan had just spoken 2 words when a dark figure burst out of the forest, accompanied by a sharp feline screech, lunging straight at Moon in the Night. Nice! Moon in the Night showed no fear and raised his sword. The cat demon was small and extremely fast. This type of enemy tested a player's precision. Yeshu had already judged the team's skill level and expected it would take time for Moon in the Night to stabilize aggro. He even wondered if his healing might accidentally pull aggro. But it didn't matter. Yeshu alone could handle the cat demon if needed. Unexpectedly, Moon in the Night performed exceptionally well. His timing was perfect. His sword hit the cat demon mid-air. Then he rolled, dodging the forward pounce and saving Lord Grimm from having to heal. The cat demon missed its attack but reacted quickly, swiping back. Moon in the Night raised his sword to block. Clang! The sword clashed with claws, pushing him back half a step, but he immediately countered with an upward slash. Impressive. Yeshu couldn't help but praise inwardly. The guard timing and follow-up attack were flawless. Clearly a skilled player. Had he underestimated him? Moon in the Night continued, attacking the airborne cat demon with a combo. Double stab, earth split slash, and finally a ghost slash that sent the cat demon flying in a dark purple arc. The combo drew admiration from the team. Without relaxing, he chased forward, landed 2 more strikes, and shouted, "Kill!" The other 3 players immediately followed up with their attacks. Moon in the Night stayed engaged, controlling the cat demon's position while relying on Lord Grimm's healing. Everything was going smoothly. The cat demon's cries echoed through the forest as it was relentlessly attacked. Everyone was excited, especially the 3 true newbies who had learned the value of hidden bosses along the way. They eagerly beat down the cat demon. But Yeshu felt something was off. "It's in red HP. Keep the healing up," Moon in the Night said. The cat demon's health dropped below 1/10, what players called red HP. Many bosses gained tricky abilities at this stage. While Green Forest bosses were simple, hidden bosses were different. The cat demon only entered a berserk state, increasing attack speed and damage. This put more pressure on the healer. Based on Moon in the Night's skill, Yeshu expected him to play it safe, dodging while finishing the fight. But unexpectedly, Moon in the Night stubbornly held his ground, even pulling back slightly on offense. Out of mana? Yeshu checked. No, that wasn't it. Then he realized. Just as Yeshu was about to warn him, Moon in the Night suddenly shouted, "Damn it, aggro's lost!"
First, the low-level phase passes very quickly, so carefully optimizing skill combinations at this stage isn't really necessary. Many players simply ignore it altogether and wait until level 20 when they choose a class before planning anything seriously. Second, although the game allows players to experience all kinds of classes before level 20, most players already have a preferred class in mind when they start, such as mage, swordsman, or gunner. Their skill choices usually follow that direction. But what about Yeshu's setup? It covered all classes. That's right, while learning skills below level 20 has no restrictions, using them is limited by weapons. For example, a gunner skill like Floating Bullet cannot be used if you're holding a sword from the swordsman class. So with a build like unmatched's, you'd have to carry a full set of weapons from different classes and constantly swap between them. That's extremely troublesome, especially at just level 20. Isn't that just asking for trouble? Unless it's the old unspecialized playstyle. What is an unspecialized or unspecialized class? It means having no class at all. But that was something from the era when the level cap was 50. After the cap increased and class awakening quests were introduced, that playstyle disappeared. Modern players seeing Jun Mokshao's full skill list wouldn't think of that at all. They'd just find it ridiculous. Yet, Yeshu seemed completely unconcerned. Jun Mokshao only had a basic white bronze sword equipped, and right after learning skills when passing by a shop, Yeshu casually sold his only weapon. Then he went straight to the storage chest, opened it, and inside was a single piece of equipment. Normally, an account transferred to a new server must be completely empty. No experience, no gold, no items in inventory, storage, or even mailbox. But this account, Jun Mokshao, freshly transferred into server 10, somehow had one piece of equipment in its storage. No one knew how this was possible, but everything seemed to be within Yeshu's expectations. He knew this item would be here, and yet when he found it, he didn't feel joy, only a deep sadness. His hand on the mouse trembled again. The last time it trembled like this was when he lost one autumn leaf. This time, it was when he retrieved this weapon. The cursor hovered over it. It read, Umbrella of 1,000 chances, level 5, weight 2.3 kilograms, attack speed 5, physical attack 180, magical attack 180. It was so simple that it didn't even have bonus attributes, just like a white weapon. But its name color was not white, it was silver. In Glory, equipment rarity is indicated by color: orange, purple, blue, green, white. White gear has no bonuses. Green usually comes from quests. Blue drops from dungeon bosses. Purple and orange are high-end items. But this weapon didn't belong to any of those categories. Silver meant self-made equipment. Self-made gear is one of Glory's most unique features. It's not crafted through normal in-game professions, but through a special equipment editing system, placing it at an even higher tier. There's a famous saying in Glory: self-made equipment isn't always the strongest, but the strongest equipment is always self-made. Self-made gear can surpass even top-tier orange equipment. In the professional league, clubs invest heavily in dedicated teams to research and develop such items. The Battle God's weapon, Evil Annihilation, was also a silver weapon, famous across the entire game. Only one exists. No duplicates. The defining trait of self-made equipment is that it's nearly impossible to replicate. Each one is unique. Of course, that uniqueness could mean it's the best item ever created, or complete trash. So what about the Umbrella of 1,000 chances? If Chen Guo were awake and saw its stats, she would instantly know it was top tier. Its 180 physical and magical attack matched a level 10 orange equipment, the highest possible attack among them. But weapons with such high attack usually have heavy weight and slow attack speed. This weapon, lightweight and an attack speed of 5, enough to completely outclass those orange weapons. Its flaws were also obvious: no additional attributes and only level 5, something that would quickly become outdated. But Yeshu didn't care, because he knew this weapon was a masterpiece born from countless experiments and failures. Reaching level 5 was already a major success, and self-made weapons could be continually upgraded through the editing system. Yeshu gently took it out and equipped it on Jun Mokshao. "Let's begin," he muttered. Then he headed straight for the level 5 dungeon, Greenwood Forest. Greenwood Forest is a 5-player dungeon. Players can enter at level 5, but above level 10, achievements no longer count towards rankings. Because players are randomly distributed at the start, even friends often can't group up immediately. Most dungeon runs at this stage are formed with random teams. As soon as Yeshu arrived, he received a few party invitations. Without hesitation, he joined a team that was missing one member.
Full, 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 the leader shouted as soon as Yeshu joined. How are we distributing hidden boss drops? Yeshu asked. Whoa, ambitious, Moon and Mistwater remarked, clearly not a newbie since he didn't ask what a hidden boss was. Hidden bosses only appear in party mode dungeons, and the system will notify players when they spawn. They're slightly stronger than final bosses and drop better loot. At Yeshu's level, he could easily solo this dungeon, but hidden bosses only appear in teams, and he needed the materials they dropped to upgrade the umbrella of 1,000 chances. Compared to leveling, upgrading the weapon was far more important. Moon and Mistwater quickly set the rules. Everything dropped equals money. We roll dice. Approved, Yeshu replied. There was no reason for strangers to give up loot. All right, get ready. Entering the dungeon, the leader said. Once everyone confirmed, the team entered. Yeshu finally put on his headset and immediately heard someone shout, Damn, who's this lucky? Said hidden boss and it actually spawned? Actually, Chen Guo didn't have a habit of staying up late. It was only because a new server opened today that she wanted to watch the excitement. After a while, she grew tired and leaned back in her chair, unable to resist the drowsiness. Naturally, the quality of sleep like that wasn't good, but Chen Guo still didn't want to get up. In her half-asleep state, she vaguely heard the sound of typing and mouse clicks. These sounds were extremely familiar to an internet cafe owner like her, but this time they felt different. The rhythm shifted, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes light, sometimes heavy, almost like music. She had never heard keyboard and mouse sounds like this before. Was she dreaming? Chen Guo suddenly woke up with a start. After calming herself and listening again, she realized it wasn't a dream. The sound was coming from beside her, more precisely from the new night shift worker she had just hired, Yi Shu. She sat up to take a look. The coat on her slipped off, and as she caught it, she realized it was Yi Shu's. She hadn't expected him to be this considerate, she thought. Though, how long had this coat gone without being washed? It smelled a bit. Holding the coat, Chen Guo was about to speak to Yi Shu when she suddenly froze. A pair of hands that could make people cry out in shock appeared before her eyes, Yi Shu's hands. They looked slender, with long fingers. The joints weren't rough like most men's, but clearly defined. The fingertips were narrow, the nails neatly trimmed, completely mismatched with his sloppy appearance. Chen Guo wasn't someone who paid much attention to hands, but ever since a girl with extremely beautiful hands started working at the cafe, she had begun to notice. Now she was utterly stunned by Yi Shu's hands. Perfect hands. The keyboard sounds were like music, but his operation. Watching his left hand on the keyboard, Chen Guo had only one thought. His hand speed is so slow. Hand speed, referring to the number of actions performed per unit time, usually measured per minute, is called APM. Glory isn't a strategy game. Players control only a few elements, but because skill usage is complex and precision is critical, hand speed is still extremely important. A 200 APM benchmark is recognized in the Glory scene. Ordinary players who exceed 200 often do so by mashing keys randomly. Professional players can exceed 200 in specific combat situations, usually against strong opponents. About 70% of normal players have APM between 80 and 120. Another 25% fall into the group of low hand speed under 80. Only 5% exceed 120, striving toward 200. Some say even among regular players, quite a few can reach professional level APM. Chen Guo's APM was around 120, sometimes slightly higher. She believed herself to be in that top 5%, a skilled player among ordinary ones. But Yi Shu, in her eyes right now, undoubtedly belonged to the group of low hand speed. As she focused on this, the rich musical rhythm she had heard earlier seemed to disappear. What she heard now was simply the slow, distinct tapping of someone with low APM. Was I dreaming? Chen Guo shook her head, trying to hear that earlier rhythm again, but it was gone. Now she could only notice his sluggish operations and those enviably beautiful hands. She had been so focused on his hands that she forgot to look at the screen. Not long after, Yi Shu's hand stopped. Only then did Chen Guo react and glance at the monitor. Her eyes instantly widened. Nightcat demon? At the exact moment she spoke, the Nightcat demon fell from the air, dropping items all over the ground. At the same time, a striking system announcement appeared. Server 10, first player to kill Nightcat demon, Jun Mokshao. Holy shit! Chen Guo suddenly slaps Yi Shu on the shoulder. You've really got skills. Regardless of his hand speed, killing a hidden boss was something she had never achieved. Yi Shu was still focused on the dropped loot and was caught off guard by the slap, nearly swallowing the cigarette ash at the corner of his mouth. The ash fell straight on the keyboard, where Chen Guo had been leaning in to watch, instantly forgot about the boss kill, yanks off his headset and shouted in his ear, "Where did you get commission to smoke here?"
Huh? Yishu hadn't even properly held the cigarette and didn't quite understand. Don't you see the no smoking sign? Chinguo pointed at the wall. Yishu turned to look carefully. You gotta be kidding me. An internet cafe that doesn't allow smoking? You can't smoke here. Go over there if you want to smoke, Chinguo pointed. Then let's go there, Yushu said. I'm not going. The smell of smoke gives me a headache. Then what should I do? Yushu looked as if he had encountered a major dilemma. You'll die if you don't smoke one cigarette? Chinguo snapped. I won't die, but I'll get a headache. You... Chinguo suddenly realized she was beginning to understand this guy. Just because he accepted living in a storage room didn't mean he was easy to push around. I'll go to the smoking area myself, boss. You can take a rest, Yushu said. Wait, you haven't explained how you killed that boss, Chinguo reminded him. It's nothing. The team wipes, the boss had barely any HP left. I just finished it off, Yushu said casually. Something that lucky? There was a hint of envy in Chinguo's voice. Rewards for the first kill of a low-level hidden boss weren't that special, just extra experience and gold. Nothing top tier. But the record would remain on the leaderboard forever, becoming a legend of the server. Many players love that feeling. For most ordinary players, getting their name on the leaderboard is only possible in the early stages. Later on, the difficulty increases. Whether it's first clears or hidden boss kills, it requires full team coordination. By the time players reach the heavenly domain, even elite teams rarely get those chances. Those leaderboard spots are dominated by professional teams. Let's see what dropped. After envying him, Chinguo leaned closer to check the loot from the Dark Knight cat demon. 5 cat claws. Trash. 1 piece of cat leather armor. Keep it to wear. Low-level gear is fine. 2 Dark Knight cat claws. 1 Dark Knight cat paw. 1 cat's eye gem. These are good. Boss materials can be sold for money. 1 skill book. Damn it, what kind of luck is this? Chenguo shouted. Even Yishu was surprised at this moment. A low-level boss actually dropped a skill book. How lucky could that be? What is a skill book? It's not used to learn skills, but to increase skill points. Just looking at the orange color of its name was enough to show its value. After reaching 4,000 skill points, if you still want to increase further, this is one of the ways. These items cannot be traded, so they can't be bought. You can only rely on your own luck. The skill book General Shao just got only gave 5 points, which isn't much, but dropping from the lowest level boss, this kind of luck was still unbelievably good. The moment the skill book entered the inventory, it was automatically used. As for the other drops from the Dark Knight Cat Demon, they were all materials needed to upgrade Umbrella, for example, the cat's eye gem and claws. Yushu was in a great mood, casually sorted things out, and had General Shao leave the dungeon. You're not continuing? Chenguo was extremely surprised. Although only General Shao remained, this was a beginner dungeon. Many players could clear it solo. Yushu might be a slow hands player, but Chenguo definitely didn't think he was weak. Beating someone she lost to 52 times within 40 seconds? This just happened not long ago. I'm going to switch computers, Yushu said as he prepared to log out. Chenguo glanced at the screen and suddenly reached out to stop him. Wait, what's going on? The chat window on the screen was flooded with repeated messages. General Shao was shameless. He deliberately didn't heal to monopolize the boss and cause the team wipe. Everyone be careful. General Shao was shameless. He deliberately didn't heal to monopolize the boss and cause the team wipe. Everyone be careful. Mixed among these identical messages were insults and ridicule. Although the system automatically censored vulgar words, human creativity was endless. Homophones were doing their job well. Yishu read through a few messages and saw that the spammer was Ye Zhengmian. Even their former teammate Ye Guangti and a mage who died first were also twisting the truth. What happened? Chenguo asked. Yishu had no choice but to explain everything. Damn, that's shameless, and they still have the nerve? Chenguo was furious. Yeah, really shameless, Yishu agreed. Why aren't you angry? Chenguo found it strange. I am angry, Yishu said. You're angry? Why don't you look like it at all? Chenguo was puzzled. Yishu stared at the slander on the screen, but his expression didn't change at all. Being angry doesn't necessarily show on your face. Not only was Yushu not angry, he even smiled, casually logged out, and shut down the computer. Going to the smoking area was what he wanted most right now. Boss is asking, what kind of luck do you have? First dungeon run and so many things happen. Hidden boss, skill book drop, and you even made enemies. I'll come check tomorrow morning to see if you're still alive. Take care, boss. Chenguo went to rest while Yushu headed to the smoking area. As expected, it was filled with smoke. Even the exhaust fans working at full capacity couldn't fully clear the air. They could only prevent it from spreading to the non-smoking area. No matter how thick the smoke was, it didn't bother the smokers here. Yushu quickly lit a cigarette, blending into the crowd. A quick glance showed that this area was even more crowded than the non-smoking section. Night owls rarely stay awake all night without smoking. Fortunately, the internet cafe was large. After walking around, Yushu found an available computer. Without hesitation, he sat down. Happy Internet Cafe was fairly high-end. Each computer had partitions for privacy. Even if there weren't, everyone wore headphones and immersed themselves in glory, ignoring the outside world. Yushu logged back into the game and put on his headset.
General Shao was still outside the Greenland dungeon. Despite the crowded environment, wearing headphones meant there wasn't an overwhelming noise. It felt like being in a bustling marketplace. You could still hear people nearby. As for repetitive messages like team invites, they relied on chat spam. Yishu checked the chat. Messages about General Shao were gone. Using the search function, one could see whether a player was online. Ye Jungman was experienced enough to know this trick. After checking and seeing General Shao offline, he stopped spamming. Players below level 20 couldn't leave the beginner area, access the world channel, or use features like PvP, so they could only argue like before. However, Ye Jungman's method was quite vicious. General Shao was just announced as the first player to kill the hidden boss. Everyone knew the name. Ye Jungman deliberately called him out, drawing attention. As a result, General Shao couldn't form teams anymore. Any request he sent was rejected. Even if players didn't fully believe Ye Jungman, they were now wary. Yishu could only smile helplessly. He wanted to team up mainly for hidden bosses, since he needed the materials. But now that he couldn't form teams, he had no choice but to grind levels solo. In Glory, fewer players in a dungeon meant more experience per person, but efficiency still mattered. More people was usually better. But General Shao was different. He wielded the silver weapon Umbrella at level 5. Most players at this stage only had blue or green weapons, which were 3 to 4 tiers lower. In Glory, every 5 levels equals a tier. That means Umbrella was equivalent to a level 20 blue weapon or a level 25 green weapon. This advantage was overwhelming at low levels. General Shao's weapon alone could deal the damage of 4 or 5 others combined. His stats were boosted as well. Alone, he was equivalent to 3 players. With Yushu's skill, soloing a dungeon wasn't slower than a 5-player team. It was even faster than a team of newbies. General Shao set off soloing the dungeon. After only a few steps, someone suddenly appeared in front of him. Yushu took a look. It was Ye Jungmin. This guy had sharp eyes. He managed to find him in such a crowded place. Hey, Yushu lifted his headset slightly, testing if he could speak. Hey, your damn head, Ye Jungmin responded rudely.